Who's got two thumbs and had the best afternoon ever with his nephews? This guy. In fact, okay, I gotta tell you about my low before I get into this afternoon. But admittedly, I've always kind of been a little bit insecure with how I look. I mean, yeah, I know by all accounts I technically don't look quote unquote bad, but remember I'm still young too. I have my whole life to look however life is going to make me look, I guess. So I guess that kind of puts me on edge. And, you know, I've always had this one fear that I'll look like this one member of my family who's no longer living. And this particular family member looked really bad. Like, well, I would explain how, but I don't think you'd ever really believe it. And I just don't want to be like that. But I figure I better not straight up embrace it, but as long as I still look moderately good, why not? Just literally take the plunge. And I did, because yesterday, my high, I got to play with my nephews in my folks' pool. And it was great. And I mentioned yesterday how I've been trying to make some changes. And my parents seem to, notice improvement. And it's only been a couple of days, too. I actually have more energy to me. I can laugh a little bit harder. Although, you know what? I should tell you the story because here's the thing. Actually, let me get my act of kindness. My act of kindness was I helped stop the table and clear the table for dinner. But before that, my nephews got to eat because they're literally 2-year-old twins, and one and an infant who's going to be turning 1 in August. My mom had made lasagna, and we had that, and obviously my nephews made a big mess. So while they're all saying goodbye to everyone, I helped clean up the floor and everything. So I did all that. It was good. And my mom made a bunch of lasagna, so we all had lasagna and salad for dinner. It was very good. Love my mom's lasagna. It may not be, I've shown what my mom's lasagna is like on social media before, so if you haven't seen it, you probably could guess what it is. But right now, I gotta get into the story I was about to talk about before I talked about my act of kindness. Good morning, happy Saturday, everybody. So, here's the thing. You probably know this already, but I'm a relatively loud person. Even when it appears like I don't have the energy for it. And when I do have the energy for it, it turns out I actually inherited my mom's laugh. Now, the only time my mom ever laughs like this is when she's around both of her sisters, or my aunts, where it's loud, her eyes are all squinted and closed, her mouth is wide open, she's laughing so hard she can't breathe, it's loud. Like, I have that laugh. And my mom is not nearly as loud and bombastic as I can be, so you can imagine. I won't say I legit, paid attention to every single time I've ever laughed like this, but when I do think of me laughing like this, there are two things that come to mind. And they were both within a month of each other. So, for me to talk about this, I first have to talk about, the setting. Back in 2014, I was actually taking a class up at a place called SCT BOCES. It's sort of like, night school and stuff like that. And I was becoming a nationally certified phlebotomist. And the first time I ever laughed like this, first time in that class. I mean, I had laughed like this several times in the past, but this is the first time I laughed like this doing this phlebotomy class. It was, because this class ran from like 5:30 to 8:30. So, not really my cup of tea, especially when you potentially have to work the next morning and you need to get 8 hours of sleep, especially if you want to do some sort of semblance of working out in the morning too. But this one particular class, we're talking about, because when you take phlebotomy, you learn about the human body, you learn about, actually, this is funny. When we got to learning about, lawsuits and what could happen on the job, they're like, why did we not learn about this first? Seriously, like, phlebotomists, doctors, all that stuff, like, you'd be surprised how often you hear about assault and battery charges, even if they're accidental. Really, it's true. Anyway, this one particular night, we were talking about, bedside manner. If you don't know what a phlebotomist is, they're basically the people at the hospital who, put a little tiny needle in your vein. I have a big vein right here, actually. They put the needle in there, they take blood, fill a couple vials, and it goes for, testing. Now, some phlebotomists go from hospital room to hospital room to do this. And when you go from hospital room to hospital room, you have to worry about bedside manner. Now, naturally, anyone who is in the medical profession would try their best to maintain, some poise and some grace among, bedside manner. Make the patient feel, warm, safe. Don't make them feel like don't make them feel like they're in the hospital, even though they already are. However, no matter what, and anyone in the medical professional will tell you this, you're going to run into some patients that are just completely ornery, irritable, like they don't want to cooperate, not really the best people. Then again, they are in a hospital and no one wants to be in a hospital. So you kind of can't really blame them for that either. My point is, we're talking about bedside manner during this phlebotomy course, and we get into a scenario where we meet this one woman who, again, is incredibly irritable, and she's like, oh, what's the point of taking blood in my body anyway? I'm gonna be dying soon. There's no point. And this is when this happened. Because I should probably tell you that when I took this phlebotomy course, it was like me, 2 other guys, and like all women. Yeah, I should probably also mention that my mom wanted me to do this so I could quote unquote meet girls, when every single girl in there was either a mom, a smoker, or both. Yeah, my mom really has never been the greatest for batting 1,000 on that. Anyway, so again, it's me in the front, a bunch of women sitting behind me, with those 2 guys I mentioned way in the back, right? They sat to each other because they were the only guys there, and I sat at the front because I just always seem to sit at the front when I'm in the class. We talk about this particular patient, again saying, oh, what's the point of taking blood on my body? I'm gonna be dying soon anyway. And then I say, the amount of blood you have in your body won't matter after you're dead now, will it? There was a gasp from every woman in the room, including the teacher, who was also a woman. And one of the 2 guys way in the back, who had my back, always had my back, he's like, 2 points. And I just died laughing. Like, I could not breathe. I was laughing so hard. There were people wondering, like, Nick, what's wrong with you? I'm not kidding. This legit happened. And you're probably wondering, you mentioned, Nick, you mentioned how this happened twice within a month. What happened the second time? Well, okay. This was, when I took this phlebotomy course, this was like from March to like May of that year. And during that time, Lent was going on, and I'd given up sweets for Lent, including Rita's, which you guys know me, I love my Rita's. Now, my teacher was aware I had given up sweets for Lent, and she was also aware of how much I liked Rita's. In fact, I actually turned a lot of people in my phlebotomy class onto Rita's. And the sad part is, what I'm about to tell you happened after Lent was over, too. So, that's actually what kind of makes it funnier. Anyway, so class was going to begin within about 10-15 minutes from this point. And the teacher had walked in with a gelati from Rita's. It was Georgia peach flavored. And she's carrying it, kind of like this. I'm sitting at the front, and she knew how much I liked Rita's, and she had known I had given up for Lent. So she takes the Rita's cup, and she's like right in front of me. Like literally right in front of my face. So she sets it down on her desk. She then leaves to go talk to someone. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have some fun with this. So I decided to hide it on her. Don't worry, I wasn't cruel or anything. In fact, all I did was moved it from her desk to another desk table that was literally right next to hers. That's all I did. But here's the kicker. The way this table was positioned, there was a sort of a high chair. And if you've ever ordered a gelati from Rita's, they give you like those really long spoons. So I would place the gelati on that. I placed the gelati on that table, but the chair was in front of that. So all you could see was like the spoon sticking out from the top of it. So she walks in and she's like, "Where's my gelati? Where did I put it?" Here's where it got funny. Because when she does find it, and it didn't take her long, maybe about 10-15 seconds for her to find out where it really was, she asked, "Did I really move this over here?" Now keep in mind, everyone in the class behind me saw me do this. They all saw me move her gelati from her desk to the adjacent table. And when she asked if she had moved her gelati to where she wound up finding it, everyone in the class is like, "Yeah, you did move it." They had my back, which was great. And I'm just like, so she sits down, and she clearly sees I make the sound, because I'm trying to hold back some laughter. And before I get to the punchline, I gotta tell you, this teacher, she tried to be hip. Like, she was like on the borderline, about to be middle-aged, where she was still saying the slang that my generation was saying. Like, for example, if it was something that we all agreed on, she was like, "I know, right?" Like that sort of trying to be hip. That's may or may not be creepy. So she asked me if I moved her gelati. I'm like, because at that point she figured it out because I was trying to hold back laughter. And she's like, and pardon the language, "You little shit." Now this time, I did laugh that hard, but I was smart. I covered my mouth like this the entire time, trying to hold back the sound. It was hilarious. Like, it's not often that you have an entire group of people who got your back when it comes to pulling a prank. So this was really special for me. Uh, so you're probably wondering, all these shenanigans happen. How did you wind up doing with phlebotomy? Well, long story short, I never really did pursue it after I became nationally certified. Yes, I did become a nationally certified phlebotomist. More impressively, because if you did this phlebotomy course, you had to take like a week and work as a phlebotomist at like any local hospital or whatever. I chose to do mine at Arnott Ogden Medical Center here in Elmira. I think they're called clinicals. I think that's what they're called. But upon finishing the class, getting a 95 on the final, and doing my clinicals, there was this one woman who actually had a higher average than I did, but she never did the clinicals. So, not only did I become nationally certified, I graduated top of my class. Here's the thing about phlebotomy that ultimately made me decide not to do it. I actually work at my father's shop, and that actually pays more than being a phlebotomist, if you can believe it. Seriously, I think like, I'm not going to say how much I make, but a phlebotomist only makes like $11 an hour. Really, at that time. Thanks to the pandemic, who knows what it is, but yeah, that's my story. That's the story of how I laughed the hardest I ever laughed in phlebotomy. Like, favorite, chat, the subscribe button, follow me on social media on YouTube. I am very humble with this video for all of you guys who are watching. Enjoy for them. Hopefully, a wonderful, wonderful Saturday. And remember, because I'm going to talk to you here to land those back. Take care and make good choices. And before I sign off, I just want to give one huge, huge, huge congratulations to the good folks over at Peas Macarons. They're celebrating their 2 years of opening today. And sadly, I won't be able to make it, but I can quickly stop by and drop a little something off. See ya.